They have a combined 12 years in the National Football League. They combined for 65 career sacks, 232 tackles, 1 Pro Bowl selection, and 1 Employee of the Month award.
That's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him.
It's Train and Grose on the All AZ Podcast Network.
Welcome in episode number 74, Train and Grose. B-Train, Bertrand Berry, Mike Grose, Sean Creston coming to you from Train Station.
Yeah, buddy.
In Phoenix, Arizona, where it's officially summertime.
Yeah, triple digits and high triple digits. We're not talking just at 100. We're talking way over.
112 according to the thermometer on the dashboard when I pulled in tonight.
Shout out to the R&B group, 112. I mean, peaches and cream.
Episode number 74, Merlin Olsen.
Wow.
Had to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I always like to jump in if there's any contemporaries that you
Los
can give us
Angeles Rams.
insight into that you played with or against. But
Shout out to Reggie Rales, who wore 74.
What about Reggie Wells?
My man. Gotta love it.
The no-name offensive line from
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Merlin Olsen, of course, famous as a football player, even more famous afterwards for commercials and acting.
Yeah.
Best friends with Michael Landon, got into a bunch of TV shows and, kind of
Parlayed his career.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he played for the Rams, of course, in Hollywood,
Yeah.
and was able to parlay it along to a lesser degree, but Rosie Greer did the same thing.
Yeah.
One of his teammates. But 74, Merlin Olsen. All right, before we get into it, I got to ask you guys this question.
All right.
So last weekend we went up to Las Vegas,
Okay.
and I had a great time.
Sin City. So what happened there stayed there?
Absolutely. Had
Okay.
dinner, though, with our good friend Marco D'Angelo. You remember
Okay,
Marco D'Angelo,
absolutely.
Sean Crespin. Like I always say on the radio show, follow him on Twitter, at Marco in Vegas, and the website, wagertalk.com. So Marco's like, you're coming to town, let's have dinner. I'm going to
Yeah.
take you out to dinner. Took
That's
us
fair.
to a old school Vegas Italian restaurant. He said, look, I guarantee you that there were hits ordered from the back booth in this restaurant back in the 80s.
Wow.
This restaurant has not been updated since the 80s. They had waiters that were working there in the 80s. My man, he was pushing the cart out. I was like, is he all right? Like, he's almost older than me. Like this guy, he was an antique too.
Don't check underneath the curtain, under the cart.
Absolutely.
You might not see something you like.
You guys remember Pia Zadora, the
Yeah.
actress? She
Yeah.
she does a cabaret act 3 times a week in their lounge. I mean, we're talking old school Vegas. There is nothing.
Does she have a walker?
No, apparently not. Apparently it's very. It was not the night we were there, so I cannot report.
Okay.
But it very well attended. But and not this was not affiliated or associated with any of the casinos or hotels. This is a standalone, and it was amazing. The food was so good. And Marco's a food connoisseur. When he'd come on the radio show, he'd do food reviews for us.
That's right.
So I
Always
said,
made me hungry.
So I said, when the waiter was going around the table, my wife ordered, Marco's wife ordered, and he came to Marco. And before Marco ordered, I said, whatever he's having, I'm having, because he's never steered me wrong when it comes to food. And he ordered veal.
Okay.
A beautiful veal cutlet,
Okay.
butterflied, so thin and delicious.
Wow.
And afterwards, I'm thinking to myself, I just ate veal. Like,
Veal's pretty good. It's a lean meat. It's a lean beef.
Did you have any reservations, though? Is that where you're going with this?
7:15 for 4.
Wow.
Oh, you mean personally?
Wow.
Yes. That was.
You can't do the
hang
dad
on
jokes.
a second. I got,
Wow.
that was brutal.
That was
I hope you're
legitimate.
not setting the stage for the final segment tonight. That was brutal.
That was legitimate.
That was brutal. You have any reservations?
Hey, you see me laughing. You know I'm all about some dad jokes.
We skipped right over and just went straight to the. I mean, come on.
Wow. I did after the fact. Is that a reservation? What's after the fact? That's not a reservation because
That's
it's too
guilt.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of guilt.
And I'm telling you, if my daughters would have been there, I couldn't have ordered it.
What?
Like the whole thing, it's a baby cow.
Veal is deer.
No,
Veal is the meat of-
venison. Veal is
yeah,
baby.
yeah.
Meat of calf. It's a meat of a calf.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby cow. Baby
Yeah.
cow.
And they don't let them walk around, and they
Keep
keep
it
them
tender
really
and
tender.
fat,
And,
yeah. It's not. It's frowned upon. But again, back in the 80s, we didn't care upon
It's
it.
frowned upon.
But that was
Where is it frowned upon?
Google it, man. Like the animal rights people, and like you can't go to Safeway and buy a veal very easily.
So you felt bad. But did you feel
First, I felt good because this thing was so damn good.
Okay.
Like it was prepared beautifully. The cheese, the sauce.
You lost me with cheese, though.
I know you're not a cheese person,
Yeah.
and I know you don't do beef, but this was a moral conundrum after the fact. But it was so good.
So
And I said I would come back here and order this dish again. It was
why not?
so good.
Just make sure your daughters aren't around.
I didn't even tell them.
you just did because they listened to the podcast?
Daughter 2 listens, so she's going to find out. Ooh. I'll tell her this one. I'll send her. This one is
Yeah,
not
that
very
didn't-
good.
that
Don't
I think you're fine.
Yeah,
Fast forward.
You just
I
missed
think you're
that one.
fine.
fast forward.
You're good.
So yeah, I had veal.
Would you eat it? But let me ask you this: if you and I happen to be in Vegas, 3 of us were in Vegas, we go to this restaurant. You want to show us this restaurant? You tell us so much about it. You order in the veal?
Yeah,
Okay, then don't feel bad about it. You're good.
Yeah,
it
what
was
do you-
so good.
You're good. What's your problem?
Stay true to yourself, bro.
Yeah.
All right, but it was good. But it was veal. But it was good. Anyway, NBA. We're in the finals, and we're 3 games in. Boston won last night, took a 2-1 lead, and I heard a stat somewhere along the line that when the series is tied 1-1, whoever wins Game 3 goes on to win the finals. Like 82% of the time over the last 39 times it's been tied 1-1. So mathematically, numbers tell you go all in on the Celtics.
Yeah, but I mean, we can disprove that because last year the Suns were up 2-0, and they lost 4 straight. So I'm not sure I buy that. That's 39 times over 75 years. I mean, that's basically half the time it goes 1-1. I mean, this is going to be a 7-game series, and I truly believe with the Golden State Warriors, they will figure it out. They've got some big questions. But I think that they can figure it out in time because they've got championship DNA all throughout that roster. And they've got guys that if they are able to get their mojo back, a la Klay Thompson, if he's able to find his stroke and get to that point where he's unreal Klay Thompson, I think you'll see this series even up very easily the next game come Friday in Boston. Because the one thing that you see, the biggest difference I see is Boston's just way bigger than Golden State. So if you're Klay Thompson and you're Poole and you're Steph Curry, if you're making your shots, their size doesn't matter because you're taking the ball out of the basket.
Right.
You're taking it out of bounds. But if you continue to brick it, now rebounds become an issue. And the one thing we've seen is that Draymond and Kevon Looney, they're not big enough to hold off the front court of the Boston Celtics. They've got a lot of size up front. They got a lot of experience up front, and their big-time players are actually playing big time right now.
Before I go all in, I need to see Steph come back. He says the ankle's just tweaked. He's going to be good to go. To your point, they had a couple days off just to get him right. But I need to see it. And it goes to something that Sean said when we last recorded in episode 73, as a matter of fact, about the jump shooting. I mean, you either have it, you're either on or not, apparently. And
It's a make or miss league.
with the Warriors, man, it was contagious. Like, they all went cold together at the absolute wrong time.
But the thing about the game, though, Mike, is with everything that was happening with their shooters and the way that their offense looked, in the third quarter, they had a lead. They actually were able to get the lead back from Boston as poorly as they played in the first half and as poorly as they played in the fourth quarter, again, which we saw in Game 1. They still had every opportunity to win that game. They were playing with the lead in the second half. So it's not as if they're just running away from the Golden State Warriors. Right. I just believe that Golden State, at some point, they call uncle a lot sooner than a lot of people do. They understand that it's about the long term and not about trying to put it all in this one game. Steve Kerr understands that with Steph Curry out, with that ankle injury, they weren't going to win that game. So he called the dogs off. He said, all right, guys, we'll come back to the drawing board. Pick your spots, choose your battles, and we'll come back for Game 4. All you got to do is split. If you get one, then you've achieved your goal.
Exactly true. And two out of the last 3 at home. Talking about the Celtics, though, we've talked about eras of basketball and how if you fell asleep after the late 80s, early 90s, and fast forwarded to what the NBA is today, how different it is. The Celtics, to me, though, feel a little bit like a team that kind of transcend. To your point, they're very big.
Yep.
And they're, I would say, on the physical meter, they're not like the old Celtics and Pistons, but they're above average from a physicality standpoint for the 2022 NBA.
Yeah.
They're kind of a hybrid throwback team, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, the one thing about them is that they are such a big team, and they are physical where they need to be.
Right.
They're physical where the Golden State Warriors are not. They're physical at point guard, where you see, what they're able to do against Steph Curry. They're able to shut him out, and you got the reigning defensive player of the year basically running around the court chasing him down.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that they've done a masterful job of doing that. Smart has been very key in really not holding Steph down, because Steph has really gotten he's really gone off. He's done his part for the Golden State Warriors. But I look at the off guard. I think if you look at Klay Thompson and you look at Jaylen Brown, it's kind of a wash. I think Jaylen has gotten a little bit of the better, but then you start to look at the small forward, Andrew Wiggins and you like Jason Tatum. I mean, to me, you kind of give the Celtics that one. You're talking about a guy that's first-team All-Pro. To me, where everything comes down for the Golden State Warriors is Draymond Green. When is Draymond Green going to show up? He has had, Mike, check this stat out. In 3 games in the finals in 2022, he scored 15 points, and he's had 15 fouls.
Right.
So you're Draymond Green. Yeah, your numbers are never going to just be gaudy. You're never going to just fill up the stat sheet. But when you have 15 points in 3 games, Mike, everybody forgets about Draymond Green, who could have been the MVP of the 2016 finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers, the one that they won, had he not been suspended for that game, and that turned the table for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Draymond Green really has to own up to the fact that he has not gotten it done in recent history. In this particular series, he has been MIA, and he's got to find his game and find it fast. Otherwise, this may be a quicker series than we anticipate.
Well, because of the way he plays and the way he conducts himself, carries himself, he plays with a target on his back. So to your point, you're going to notice him and put him in that conversation when he does, maybe not Steph Curry type numbers, but when he does what he does.
Sure.
But when he falls off, or I would say disappears the way you described it, it's even that much more noticeable, because he's still that persona, he's still that figure, he's still the guy that when you're in the new Boston Garden, people love to yell at him and heckle at him, and he's that guy.
That's what fans do, though.
No, but I understand that. But for that Warriors team, he's that lightning rod. That's his job. That's what he does.
Right.
But when he's not backing it up, as you described it, it makes it that much more noticeable.
Yes, it is that much more noticeable. But I think a lot of times people are putting a lot of pressure on Poole to be that guy. This is Poole's first finals.
Yep,
this is really his first playoff run.
Yeah.
So to ask him to go out there in his first time being in these situations and carry the load and carry the weight for the team. Draymond Green said something very, very profound, but I thought it was still a cop-out. He said, why would I shoot the ball when I got Steph and Klay, the best shooting backcourt in all NBA history, and you got a Poole coming off the bench who can light it up? Yeah, I get all of that, but when you were winning championships, you were still scoring 20 points a game.
Yeah.
You were still a guy that could put the ball in the basket, and for you to not even look at the basket and then you not even be able to affect the defensive side because you're basically overmatched with all of that size as a guy that's about 6'6", and you're going up against 6'10", 6'11", Robert Williams and Al Horford. It's glaring how much he's not doing what he needs to do to help this team.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked about that team where they've got so many stars, legitimate stars. But again, I go back to it. He is that, I don't know if leader doesn't feel like the right word, but I think the rest of the team feeds off of it when it's going well.
He's the lightning rod.
And they sense it when it's going poorly.
He's the lightning rod.
Yeah.
He's the litmus test for the Golden State Warriors. Whatever kind of mood he's in, everybody else is to follow. And Steph, as great of a player as he is, he still does not move the needle for everybody else. Not saying that he doesn't make people better, but he's not a guy that's going to show a lot of emotion on the court, except for when he's draining threes and he's giving a little shimmy or whatever. Yeah. That's about the only time. From a defensive standpoint, he doesn't do a lot. But Draymond Green has to understand his role on this team, and he's got to embrace it. The other person that I think has to have some culpability in this is Steve Kerr. What's the rotation, Steve? Who are you going to play? Because you continue to get out-rebounded by a much bigger, much more physical team. Where's all that young talent that we saw in the other rounds?
Yeah.
Where's Kuminga? You know what I mean? Where are these other guys where's Andre Iguodala, for goodness sakes? I mean, not to say that he's going to come in and completely change life because he's not at that stage of his career anymore. But he's a guy that has championship DNA. He's a guy that was a finals MVP once upon a time. He understands what his role could be if given the opportunity. There's a lot of guys with DMP next to their name on that roster right now for the Golden State Warriors, a lot of that young talent, and I think a lot of that young talent could be served well in this series when you start talking about matchups.
And they went out of their way before that game to make sure everybody knew he was available, right? So he was available. So to your point, whatever the decisions were, we're not privy to that. And I go back to what we were talking about Steve Kerr before when they were still in the series with Dallas when the shooting happened in Texas, and again, similar to what we were talking about Draymond Green, I believe it's true, what we said about Steve Kerr at that time.
It's still true.
Where they follow,
yeah,
and they sense what you just described to the players. Like if the coach isn't all in, if he's not giving, you go through the motions a little bit as a coach, players are going to follow you.
Yeah, I mean, they almost seem like, we've been here, we know where we are. It's 2-1. We'll get the next one, and everything will be back to normal.
TV ratings are good, not great for the NBA.
There's a lot going on. The one thing I will say, Mike, is I've truly enjoyed watching the playoffs in hockey. I really have. I've enjoyed watching the playoffs.
It's like hockey. You're looking off my paper here, B-Train. Part of the criticism of the NBA has been there's been a lot of blowouts. Like you watch games and they're not competitive down the stretch.
Right.
Even series that are going 5, 6, 7 games, it might be blowout in one way and the other. Hockey games have been very, very competitive. The other thing that the NHL has, and the NHL finally has, is the New York TV market in the postseason finals.
Well, and they have ESPN behind them too.
Well, and that's a big jump up.
Yes.
That's a huge jump up. And I shouldn't say the finals. They're still battling Tampa for the Eastern
Well,
Conference
congratulations to the Colorado Avalanche.
And the Avalanche are sitting around waiting.
The sweep of Edmonton, my goodness.
And yet another year that Canada will not get the Stanley Cup. 1993-94, Montreal Canadiens won it last time. That's an original 6 team, Sean Crespin.
Absolutely.
And but having the arguably one of the marquee franchises in the NHL in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the partnership with ESPN has been a huge, huge bump up for the visibility. For someone who, I've known you for 10, 12 years now, I would describe you as a casual hockey fan.
That is fair.
I appreciate the fact that when we were doing radio together and the Coyotes were in the playoffs, you let me drag you into those conversations.
I was mad that I didn't get to go to LA with you guys. If you remember, like I was legit pissed.
You didn't get to
I didn't get to go either. You left my ass in the studio.
CJ went.
They left me at home, bro. I didn't even get to go to the studio. I was at home.
I was at the studio here.
You got to work with Manuch that week, though.
Oh God, my man. I love Manuch.
Hey, but yeah,
that's my guy right there.
Having the Rangers on TV, it's been a boon for the NHL.
But I think the fact that they've been on ESPN and not NBC or whatever that is, NBC whatever that's called, that other channel, they've just been around. Like their name and the sport has stayed in the forefront of sports.
All three of us, I venture to say, are the same. When you get home and you're done doing whatever you're doing, you turn the TV on.
Sports Center.
You go to ESPN.
Sports Center.
Right. So to your point, most nights it's there. Otherwise, it's on TBS or TNT.
And you come across it now, though.
Exactly.
Because you're usually put it this way: you land on TNT or TBS a hell of a lot more than you land on NBC Sports Network
or CNBC.
So you just see
or
it.
wherever
that's
that's where they buried the early round games before. No, I agree. Getting rid of NBC, the network was good because that was it. It was kind of like Notre Dame football.
Right.
NBC doesn't have a lot of sports properties that they do, so when they have it, they elevate it.
Yeah.
But when you get to places like the postseason and you have to disperse, you get lost.
Yeah.
And they did. And ESPN, TBS, TNT have done a remarkable job. Coyotes' Paul Bissonnette is a breath of fresh air on these post-game shows. And the dichotomy of him sitting next to Wayne Gretzky. Paul Bissonnette was what he was in the NHL.
Right.
Wayne Gretzky is the great one.
The great one.
and the two of them sitting next to you, I love it.
Yeah.
So similar to what the TBS studio show.
Sure.
I love those guys.
Absolutely.
And so I would agree with you. I think NHL definitely benefiting, and the numbers show it.
Yep.
And the finals apparently will be on ABC, just like they're doing with the NBA.
Mike, I think that if you start looking at what baseball has endured and what they've gone through, I think hockey has taken a step up.
Yeah, I do too.
As far as the popularity in the United States.
Yeah, and owners and the league offices will never admit it, and we talk about it. Every sport except the NFL, like it doesn't matter who's in the Super Bowl because it is the Super Bowl.
Sure.
I mean, it didn't hurt that it was the Rams in Los Angeles last year, but
Against the upstart
you could have
in
Jacksonville
Joe Burrow. Yeah.
playing, Seattle,
Yeah.
and it's going to be
it's
a big
going to
deal.
be sold.
If you had the equivalent of Jacksonville and Seattle in the NBA or the Jacksonville and Seattle in baseball, that's bad for business.
Are you talking about Orlando and
whatever it is?
Oklahoma City?
So to have the Rangers, the first year they go to ESPN has been a boon. And importantly, ESPN sees that bump up as well, and they say, you know what, this was the right investment. Let's continue to work this. Let's work this relationship.
How great was it to have Mark Messier? Because the Rangers were in it. Then you had the Edmonton Eskimos, both teams. He was part of championship teams
Absolutely.
with Stanley Cup champions, and to get that kind of perspective, it's so rare. I think to have the best of both worlds like that, they knocked it out of the park.
You played one year in the CFL.
I played 2 games in the CFL.
What team?
The Edmonton Eskimos.
The Oilers. You didn't go to an Oiler game. That's a hockey.
I wasn't there long enough, Mike. I wasn't even there to have my bags unpacked. That's how quick my 2 weeks were.
We're going to step aside here. We're going to ponder that for a second. And on the other side, we'll keep the basketball talk. I didn't think we were going to talk a lot about the Suns, but a couple things bubbling up here under the surface.
Sure.
And we'll dive into that. Coming up on Train and Grose.
Train and Grose.
The word of the day is post-production.
A lot gets done post-production.
Welcome back in, Train and Grose. Give us a follow on Twitter. Check
Wouldn't
this
that
out.
be 2 words of the day?
At Train and Grose. It's hyphenated. It's one
Oh,
word.
okay, good.
Post-production.
Wow.
We're going to do another segment on the NBA because we have to, pretty much.
Yeah. It's a lot going on.
So 2 stories directly related to the Phoenix Suns. Well, maybe even 3 directly related to the Phoenix Suns. First and foremost, and I don't know that we're going to spend a lot of time on this, but in case you've forgotten, the NBA's investigation into Robert Sarver apparently is done, and they're putting together the final reports. Got the office staff collating copies down in the basement, and they're certainly not going to overshadow their finals by releasing whatever this report is going to say. But it's out there, and Adam Silver, NBA commissioner, said that there will be news forthcoming on what their investigation of Robert Sarver uncovered. Now, you remember the story broke in late October, early November, around all the questions around Robert Sarver, the workplace environment.
Before the finals last year.
Was it? Is
Yeah.
that long ago?
It was right at the start of the playoffs, if I remember right.
Right before the finals.
Is that it?
It was before the finals. Right before the finals last year.
And then I missed. Now that's not when it broke, but the investigation began. In
No, I
November.
got you.
No, but good correction, just to keep our story straight. So we'll digest it when it comes out. I have no idea. I'm not going to say I'd forgotten about it because that's not right. But it kind of slipped, right?
Yep.
It had a lot of fanfare, a lot of attention.
Well, when there's no new news, it's going to be bumped down a little bit until there is something.
Well, we're going to get into it later on when we talk about the NFL and how the NFL's police or don't police their brethren, the owners. And it'll be interesting to see how the NBA handles this, whatever the findings are.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number 2 is an athletic story that came out saying that at least 5 Suns staffers and 1 player were tested positive for COVID during the latter part of the series with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, nobody missed a game due to COVID protocol in the Mavericks series. Eddie Johnson, the fine broadcaster, former player, he was on radio in San Francisco.
Right.
And he came out, and you may have heard the clip already, but you can find it if you haven't. He came out and said basically it was Chris Paul. And the reason they lost that series was because Chris Paul wasn't right.
Wow.
That's the reason. Not only they lost Game 7, but they lost the entire series. Now, I heard the first time I heard the clip, I'm like, damn, look at Eddie getting out in front of the story, trying to, give the team some air cover. I was like, all right. Then I heard it again later.
Yep.
And
you really thought about what he said.
Are you helping? Are you really helping?
No.
Because here's a team, as we just talked about, they're already under investigation. At least the owner's under investigation by the league.
Right.
And even though they faded away as the season went on, there were still COVID protocols that teams were expected to adhere to. And look, we'll never know for certain whether or not Chris Paul was positive with COVID during that series. But I put the shoe on the other foot. What if somebody on the Mavericks was positive with COVID and they rolled him out on the court and the Suns won that and move on, but something happened because of that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Contact tracing is what they were calling it there for a while.
So, Mike, go ahead, finish.
But, so for me, it's just an interesting story. We may never know the answer. Chris Paul's certainly not going to come out and say, hey, thanks, Eddie. Appreciate you having my back on that one. But there's a lot to unpack there.
Mike, if you remember when the NFL playoffs started, remember how I came on here on our podcast and I was like, it's awfully interesting how there are absolutely 0 cases of COVID during the playoffs. During the season, there was all types of COVID issues and guys missing and coaches missing.
Even in
and
week
everything.
16, 17, and 18, we had some.
It was so interesting that once we got to playoff football, there was absolutely nobody in any organization that had any trace of COVID. It seemed odd. And when you talk about the basketball playoffs, it seemed as if the same script was being played out. And if you have a situation where a guy who has come up short historically in the playoffs when his team has needed him most, to have something like that over his head, I think that would have been a assassination of his character. I don't think he would have been able to recover from that. Like, okay, you've missed games because of a hamstring in Houston, and you've missed games for a shoulder while you're here in Phoenix, but now you're missing because of COVID? What else, Chris Paul? Because as great of a player as he's been in regular seasons, he's as equally notorious for missing games and not showing up in the playoffs. And had they had to explain why he didn't show up, Mike, I don't think that would have gone over well in the court of public opinion.
And I heard somebody here on local radio questioning Monty Williams at that point, like, okay, you're not going to come out and say it, to your point, right? But, can you do something, or should you have done something to better protect him and the team from a rotational standpoint or whatever? Because clearly he was not right.
Sure.
At the end of it, they were saying, oh, look at, like, he was limping off the court, and they're like, oh, he might have had a quad issue or something like that. Whatever it was, the larger issue, to your point, is he did not perform
up to standards,
up to
what we
standards
expect
in the postseason.
Again.
So now you scratch beneath the surface and say, all right, like, what could have been different? What could have been done to change the outcome of that series? They were up 3-2. They were up 3-2 and lost that series. And then we were talking before we started recording. So let's say all of that is true.
Right.
You're 3-3. You're at home.
Right.
If you lose 123 to 117
in overtime.
Okay,
we live with that.
That game.
Game 7s are Game 7s.
Right.
That's why we love Game 7.
This Game 7 was historically bad.
All the wrong reasons. They were down 46 at one point, Mike.
27 points in the first half.
46 points. In a Game 7 on your home court, you were down 46 points at one point in the game. That's
not one guy having COVID.
No. And to put it all on Chris Paul, yes, Chris Paul has to own his side of it. He has to own his share, his slice of the blame. But if you're looking at this from a totality standpoint, this was an organizational failure.
Yeah.
The entire team, the entire roster had to take some blame because nobody played well in that game. Obviously, if you're down 46 points in a game, in a professional playoff game where there aren't as many possessions, Mike.
No.
That's the thing that's so crazy.
How
are you down 46 points when you don't even have the same amount of possessions that you normally get in a regular season game? And for the Dallas Mavericks to have had that big of a lead built up, it just seemed as if one team showed up and the other team absolutely didn't.
Absolutely. I just think, and it's to the point that you and Sean were just mentioning, I think nothing's going to happen to the Suns because there's no way you can go back and recreate a COVID test unless there's a smoking gun somewhere. And so what if there is? But I think it's to your point around what are these teams doing We can, when we're on a 8-game road trip and we leave somebody home because of protocols in November, okay, that's fine.
Yep.
But when we're in the NBA playoffs,
can't run, can't hide. Everything's magnified.
And so the NBA, I think, is behind the scenes probably scrambling a little bit to at least put some positive spin or to cover themselves on this one.
So think about this, though, Mike. And I remember Chris Rock saying this in one of his bits, and I thought it was hilarious and yet so profound. He said, you can't get a speeding ticket for speeding last week. If you're the NBA, how are you retroactively going to go back and punish the Suns for something that they did? They got away with it.
Yeah, I don't think
but it still didn't help.
It didn't help.
You know what I mean?
But I think, it's one of those things. It ain't the crime; it's the cover up too.
Well, it's always worse than the crime.
And so going forward, right?
Yes.
Like what is the NBA going to do?
Yes.
And what are the protocols going to be? Because they're going to tighten it down.
That's correct.
Because this has the potential, or maybe had, to Chris Rock's point, had the potential to be very embarrassing for the NBA.
It's embarrassing now.
But if it would have played out in real time, even more so. But to your point, we'll wait and see what happens after the fact. Finally, with the Suns, it's rumor time, rumor city, and apparently DeAndre Ayton is a hot topic of conversation around the league. Maybe not so much here as we Suns fans wait to see what happens between DeAndre and his team. But one of the teams that he's been affiliated or associated or linked with is the Detroit Pistons. And a local station in Detroit, they had a take on this. I'm going to read you a direct quote. He doesn't respect Monty Williams. What's he going to do with Dwayne Casey, especially once he gets paid? They're talking about, if you're the Pistons, do you trade one of those draft picks you got to the Suns to deal with DeAndre Ayton?
Look, if I'm DeAndre Ayton, I'm keeping my mouth shut because your play on the court basically said you don't deserve anything near a top dollar free agent contract. The way you came up small in that series against the Dallas Mavericks, where you're the biggest thing out there and you came up short yet again when it mattered most for your team, there is no way that they're going to open up the vault and try to give DeAndre Ayton everything that he wants because he hasn't proven that he can be that guy.
Right.
When you talk about the Phoenix Suns, he's third, maybe fourth in line when you start talking about credit and guys that they assert or assess the success for the Suns with. DeAndre Ayton, he doesn't get more than Devin Booker. He doesn't get more than Chris Paul. I'll even go Jay Crowder gets more credit than what DeAndre Ayton, or I'll even Mikal Bridges. I'll go with him as far as a bigger contributor to the overall success of the Phoenix Suns. So if you're fourth, fifth on your own team right now, how are you going to go somewhere else and get their top dollar?
We sat here, watched it all year long, and certainly watched it in the playoffs.
Sure.
I don't disagree with you. However,
he was the number one overall pick.
Do you think that there is a team or teams out there in the NBA
desperate
that would make a deal with the Suns, a sign and trade deal, to pay him what he wants to be happy? And if you're the Suns, do you do it?
You got to be real desperate, Mike. For DeAndre Ayton, for one, where is he going to play? What system is he going to play in? He looks archaic with the Suns right now. The way that he wants to play basketball, it's totally against the system that Monty Williams has put in. He may not respect Monty Williams. Monty Williams has no reason to really think about DeAndre Ayton when you start talking about the overall team success.
Well, and to that point, the Monty Williams piece, like you look around, you talked about Steve Kerr a couple weeks ago, and we've talked for 2-3 years now about Monty Williams.
The reigning coach of the year, by the way.
The coach of the year took a franchise that hadn't even thought about the playoffs for over a decade, and look where we are now.
Hadn't sniffed the
NBA
playoffs.
Finals and most wins in team history this year.
Yeah.
Playoff disappointment, of course.
Sure.
But their point is, like, DeAndre Ayton couldn't get behind that. And you look at some of the bottom feeders around the NBA right now, no disrespect to my Pistons or Dwayne Casey, but I think his point is well taken. Like, money ain't going to make this man respect his coach all of a sudden.
Money ain't going to make him play better either, Mike.
No,
That's the whole
I understand
point.
that. Like, but I think they go hand in hand. And I think that if it presents itself and I'm the Suns, I take a deal. If Orlando calls, if Detroit calls,
Mike,
what do you take? Well, like
if the G League calls, I'm taking that call.
So this is still a little fresh in your memory. I don't know about the G. Somebody will make that deal, though.
But why? Okay, so when I think
You said it, desperation.
when I think yes, desperation. DeAndre Ayton. When I think about a team, there isn't a team in the NBA that you can just put him on that team and say we can build around him and be a winner. I don't see any scenario in 30 teams around the NBA that you can say we're DeAndre Ayton short of being where we want to be. Not one.
Real quickly, as we get out of here on this segment, will DeAndre Ayton be on the Phoenix Suns when they?
I think they're stuck with him. They're not going to give him max dollars, but nobody's going to do a big deal because they know how they feel about him. And if we know
we do
that DeAndre Ayton doesn't respect Monty Williams, which is not a great idea as a guy who is as respected as a player and as a coach as Monty Williams, if you can't respect that guy,
right.
There's a whole lot of people that are going to look at you sideways like, dude, what are you doing?
We're all on the same page as it relates to everything you just said. The other thing that I know and we've seen happen, not only in the NBA, professional sports all over the place.
All it takes is one.
Is say, hey, he's a former number one.
All it takes
they
is
were
one.
handling him wrong.
All it takes
Let's
is
get
one.
him here, get him happy. We can fix it.
All it
We
takes
can
is
fix
one.
it.
All
You
it
know
takes
that
is
team
one.
is out there.
Mike, there was.
And if I'm the Suns, if I'm James Jones,
I can't do it fast enough.
I'm Steve Keim when the Texans call. I'm like, okay, hey,
Mike,
I just faxed you over the agreement.
let's go back. So to that point, when you talk about all it takes is one, the Portland Trailblazers, one point in time, took Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan. Let's just go back and let's just think about that.
Yeah.
They took Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Where would those franchises be? Where would Chicago be with no Michael Jordan, and where would Portland be with Michael Jordan?
That question is fascinating.
But all it takes is one.
Because everybody's like, well, Portland ain't Chicago. Portland's right around the corner from the Nike headquarters.
People forgot about Chicago and what they were when Jordan first got there. They were Portland.
Yeah.
They were a team that looked like a bunch of also-rans, and Mike's like, you got to get me out of here, man. This is crazy.
I'm gonna disagree with you, and I'm gonna say when we do our NBA preseason preview, we break down all the teams, do our win total. DeAndre Ayton will not be in the Phoenix Suns uniform.
All right.
Because you
What do
said
you want to bet?
You said
They're
all it takes
stuck
is
with
one.
him. All it takes is one, but he's asking for too much. His price is too high for that scenario to play out, in my mind. All it takes is one, but they're not signing and trading for a max deal for DeAndre Ayton.
All right, we'll find out. All right, on the other side, NFL news and notes on Train and Grose.
Train and Grose.
Yeah.
Rolling along here on episode number 74. Denver Broncos have a new owner. They got bought by Walmart.
Yeah.
Rob Walton, one of the heirs to the Walmart fortune. And, man, they make a lot of money. Woo! He purchased.
When's the last time you've been to Walmart?
I hate Walmart.
Why?
My bank is in a Walmart, Desert Financial, I should say. So I go in for the bank all the time. So I'm in that Walmart all the time.
I go to Walmart at least once a month.
I go to Target.
I go to Target at least twice a week.
Yeah, me too.
Well, all those trips to Walmart helped Rob Walton buy the Denver Broncos for $4.65 billion.
Billion with a B.
Billion.
With a B.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of stash.
And I don't know, when you look at the hierarchy of NFL teams, I know you played there. I mean, the Broncos under Pat Bowlen were, and I lived there for 10, 12 years. It was remarkable.
They were one of the best run organizations
they owned
in
that town,
the country.
And unfortunately, Mr. Bowlen got ill and passed away. And
Alzheimer's, yeah.
Yeah, and as sometimes happens with children of rich guys, it didn't play out well. His family feuded and ultimately led to the sale. And it impacted the product on the field because after Mr. Bowlen stepped away from day to day,
John Elway kind of ran it into the ground.
John Elway ran it into the ground. Beloved quarterback. I guess he owns car dealerships and whatnot up there, but
hadn't done well from a football standpoint.
Not so hot.
Remember, he had the Crush, the Colorado Crush, with the indoor league.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So the Broncos now have new ownership, and we'll see what happens there. CBS Sports did an interesting article about now that the market has been set. So if the Broncos are $4.65 billion, you can kind of figure out where these other teams might slot in
LA.
based on the value.
My gosh.
And there's a handful of teams. I'm not going to go through all of them and all the details, but a lot of them have to do with, say, for example, the New Orleans Saints. Tom Benson passed away. His wife now owns the team. That's a lot. And estate planning. Like, I don't really worry about this, but when you're uber rich, you got to take care of business. Otherwise, the government get their hooks into you.
But you got to do that anyway. Whether you're rich like them or you're a normal person, get your trust and all that stuff in order.
Well, that's the point. I'm just talking in the billions.
No, I got you. I got you. But even if you're
percentages are percentages. If they take half,
Yeah.
it's still a lot of money. But
I mean, even if you're a thousandaire, you know what I mean? Go get your trust and your business in order.
Well, Gail Benson, who owns the Saints, said, "Hey, look, I can't take it with me, and I'm giving it away before I go." So, essentially, the Saints are now on the market. The Seahawks potentially because of Paul Allen. The Chicago Bears. Virginia McCaskey is 99 years young.
Wow.
So you look at the Bears possibly. But two I want to talk about before we jump into other news from around the NFL. The Washington Commanders. We talked a moment ago about Robert Sarver, the report coming out from the NBA on his trouble with the Phoenix Suns.
A mess.
And if Robert Sarver's a mess, Daniel Snyder's a dumpster fire wrapped in a landfill and nuclear
With gasoline
waste.
being poured on it.
With gasoline and people tossing matches on it. Like every day it's something else with this team.
And it
you
just
got
gets
the
worse and
workplace.
worse.
And then it comes out the fact that a former employee who was terminated took the books with him and said, hey, they run 2 sets of books and they've been ripping off the rest of you owners
Forever.
for years on the revenue sharing that you're supposed to be doing here.
Yeah.
And, you look at it, and we've talked about it, owners forgive a lot from other owners.
Except taking that money.
You take that money,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden that's going to ramp up the heat on them. So it'll be interesting to see as this moves along what the tolerance level for Daniel Snyder is amongst the other owners.
I think it's running short.
I believe you're right. Now, Daniel Snyder doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to go willingly. And so, it'll be interesting to see and I forget what the exact clause is, but within the bylaws of the NFL, it's like if a certain percentage of NFL owners get together and say, hey, he's got to sell.
Oh, the best interest of the league.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, the best. The same thing in basketball they had with the Clippers owner back in the day.
Sterling.
Donald Sterling, yes.
So we'll see if they do that with Daniel Snyder, particularly since he's been fleecing them on the financial side. And then lastly, a team that I didn't realize that they were in such bad shape, the Los Angeles Chargers. They hooked their wagon to the Rams, their second fiddle in the beautiful new stadium in L.A.
That's such a bad look.
It's a bad look. It works for the Jets and the Giants. It doesn't work for the Rams and the Chargers.
Well, neither the Jets or the Giants have won a Super Bowl in that stadium.
And I've maintained all along, like I don't have any opinion one way about, New York, New Jersey, Jets, Giants, Meadowlands, none of that. I don't care.
But they've shared for years,
Yeah.
so it's not been a big deal.
I maintain, and I think you and I probably talked about this on the radio show, the NFL should be in San Diego. The NFL should send Super Bowls to San Diego every other year as far as I'm concerned.
4-year rotation.
And the Spanos family screwed that up from the word jump. And digging in, and again, from the CBS Sports story, they're a mess behind the scenes. Mr. Spanos, the original Mr. Spanos, passed away, and he set up a trust.
Yep.
But it was not conducive to owning an NFL team. He sliced it up between his children and gave them certain percentages, 15%. Somebody owns 36% of the team. So nobody owns this thing. And now apparently certain members of the trust are not paying their taxes, not paying their bills. They're having a hard time meeting their charitable obligations. And so they're quickly going to find themselves in the same situation I think that the Broncos did, where it's going to maybe be purely to pay the bills and to get the family off of each other's backs, they're going to have to sell that team.
Mike, it's such a bad look all the way around for the Spanos family because they've never really been forgiven for how they left San Diego.
Yeah.
San Diego was one of those, because people still slip when they talk about the Chargers. They still say San Diego. They were there for so long. They're so synonymous with the area that people still slip after all these, it's been like 6 years? And
terrible.
People still slip when they say the Chargers. They still say
Or you do it intentionally. I do it intentionally.
I don't do it intentionally, but I mean, it was so hardwired into my brain and my psyche that the Chargers were in San Diego and there was no team in L.A. I mean, you had the Raiders and the Rams for a while, but
I mean, it's one of the. It's an unfortunate because it's the franchise that it is, but it is one of. I mean, they have one of the best theme songs of all time. This isn't the L.A. Superchargers. It's San Diego Superchargers. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
When it comes to football theme songs,
I mean, just
come on.
for that reason alone, they've got egg on their face.
Yeah.
But I think about all of the great history with this organization. It's been in San Diego.
Yes.
And so they've done absolutely nothing in
Hang on.
Los Angeles. And when you share the stadium or you rent from the other team that, oh, by the way, is the reigning Super Bowl champions, and they seem to be pushing every right button when it comes to making moves and free agency and whatnot and draft.
Right.
You look worse and worse by the move.
Yeah.
Every move they don't make and every move the Rams do make, it almost seems as if there's one tenant in that SoFi Stadium, and then the other one is just kind of like a throw-in, like, oh, we'll take the Chargers.
hang on. You said all the great things they did in San Diego. I'm trying to find the Super Bowl.
Crazy
champion.
cousin Eddie.
Wow. They did get to
I'm
one.
trying to find that.
They did get to one.
Gross, can you help me out here? Where
They
is
got to one.
this? They didn't show up to that one, though.
They didn't show, but they got to it. Hey, there's 4 teams right now in the NFL that have never even gotten to it. So
When you played for the Broncos and went to San Diego, how many times did they play the San Diego Superchargers?
All the time.
at least once a quarter.
Yep.
At least once a
All the
quarter.
time.
If the Broncos are worth $4.65 million, billion, how much would you pay for the San Diego Chargers?
You're going to have to pay 5.
Well, you
5.4.
just did it there. Los Angeles Chargers.
Did I say Los Angeles?
No, you said San Diego.
I do it. Didn't I just say I do it on purpose?
Oh, okay.
Because if
All right.
I buy the Chargers,
Yeah.
I'm moving them back to San Diego.
I would too.
But no,
the city doesn't want you, though, and you have no stadium.
The city didn't want the Spanoses.
The city wanted Comic-Con over the Chargers.
The city didn't want to deal with the Spanos family.
It came down to a turf battle,
It did.
and
It wouldn't be easy, but I would take the team back
Because the
to San
city-
Diego. And
they don't
would-
want them now, though.
They
The
would,
vote-
they
the-
would take
don't
them.
want
The voters voted for that money to go to the convention center that Comic-Con is there because of the money that brings in. One weekend in a year trumps the 8 home games for the San Diego Superchargers.
See, I don't agree with that though, because when you start talking about the Super Bowls, what kind of
And that's-
that brings in,
Yes.
if they do that once every 4 years, there's no way that you're going to compare Comic-Con to the NFL when you
Right.
start talking about who's going to generate the most revenue for the city. I mean, that's
But that's what the vote. That's what the voters were. That's what
But
they
that was due to
Spanos.
the spite.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Because guess what? They're not anti-stadium because the Padres play in one of the nicest stadiums in Major
Sure
League
do.
Baseball.
What is it, Petco
And-
Field? Is it
Yeah,
still
Petco Field. And oh, by the way, they're not against football because the Aztecs are getting a new stadium. So I think that if you put a fresh coat of paint on it and dump the Spanos family, San Diego would be willing to listen. It'd be a battle, but they'd be willing to listen.
You know what's really sad about that whole thing is that the Los Angeles Chargers have a really
They're
good
really
football
good team.
Yeah, they're damn.
They
Damn
they
good.
could actually be a team that's fighting for a chance to go to the Super Bowl this year.
As long as
And
the coach gets out the way.
well, I'll just say they've addressed their glaring weaknesses. They've got a pass rush now. They've got some secondary help. They were able to do what they needed to do to prop up their franchise quarterback. They've got some offensive linemen there now to help him keep him upright.
Yep.
And we know what he can do when he gets time. He can sling it all over the field. So this is really a good football team, but organizationally, it's a dumpster fire.
Absolutely. So those are a couple teams to keep an eye on now that the market has been set.
But can we
As far
talk
as
about
possible.
Aaron Donald though? Can we just give a quick second to give Aaron Donald a shot?
Can we just
And
talk about the Rams?
Let's talk about the Rams.
Cooper Kupp.
The Rams are one of those few teams that have basically said, you know what, to hell with the draft. We're going to build this thing through free agents and throwing money at guys that we picked that really played out well for us. Cooper Kupp is he's got to be one of the best stories I've ever heard, Mike. For him to start where he started and to now have that Triple Crown season that he had, be the Super Bowl MVP on top of that, and be one of the more humble guys you ever hear in your life. I mean, when he talked about having all those records for yards and all that kind of stuff, he's like, first thing he said was, it's got to have an asterisk because I played 17 games. Those other guys played 16. And I'm like, who thinks of that in that moment? Most guys are going to be like, hey, I had a lot of help with my teammates.
Yep.
People put me in great situations, but they're going to accept a lot of that adulation. He was having none of it. He was like, no, it's going to be an asterisk because I played more games than they did. I had more opportunities to do more than what they had.
I'm going to read you a paragraph on an article from Sarah Barshop at ESPN.
Okay.
Because I think the last sentence really goes to the way franchises are run.
Okay.
After reworking Donald's contract Monday to give him a big raise, the team made wide receiver Cooper Kupp one of the highest paid receivers in the National Football League. And here's the important sentence. Neither player's deal was up after the season.
Nope.
Both players were given more security and a reward after the crucial role they played in helping their team win a Super Bowl.
Mike, I truly believe without either of those guys, they don't win. They don't beat Cincinnati. I don't know if they even beat San Francisco.
But if you're a guy not named Aaron Donald or not named Cooper Kupp, or you're a free agent in the future considering going to a team,
absolutely, they take care of those guys.
That's the point.
And Odell Beckham Jr., he's another one that they're probably going to bring back, even though right now they don't have to do anything because he's hurt. Right now he had the ACL in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But if Odell Beckham had his ruthers, he's going to want to stay right where he is,
Absolutely.
and he would take a pay cut to be able to be on a winner.
Did you see his comments about crashing Sean McVay's wedding that recently happened?
No.
People are like, you're not even technically on the team anymore. You went to the wedding, and he's like, you know how many coaches were there? You know I'm a free agent, right? That's thinking. That's playing chess.
Nobody
not
ever
checkers.
said Odell Beckham was dumb.
By the way, did you hear Les Snead talk about the salary cap? Because they're signing all these guys. Here's Les Snead talking about the salary cap.
He basically said bump your.
Fugazi. You know what Fugazi is?
Well, Fugazi, it's fake.
Yeah, Fugazi. It's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real.
That's pretty accurate.
That is awesome. He basically said bump the salary cap.
Yeah,
I'll deal with this in 2 years after our window is closed.
That's from Wolf of Wall Street there, but it's basically how they view the salary cap.
I have said for at least 4 years, maybe 5, that Aaron Donald is the best player in the NFL.
I'm gonna jump into this because it's on Pump the Brakes.
Oh,
but no, you're good. Let's just go there. 7 first-time All-Pros, 8 Pro Bowls, 3 Defensive Player of the Years, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and a Super Bowl champion. If you remember that last drive, he shut the door.
Himself.
Absolutely shut the door.
The pass rush.
That one-arm tackle was just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. The question was going to be, pump the brakes or not, Aaron Donald's the best player in football.
There's no doubt about it.
It's not even close.
It's not even close. So here's the thing. When you start talking about those stats, the only other player in NFL history to have a Defensive Rookie of the Year, multiple Defensive Players of the Year, and that many All-Pros?
I'm going to guess LT.
LT, that's the list.
Yeah.
That's it. He and LT are in a league of their own. When you start talking about guys that have dominated their positions and are not quarterbacks, you cannot ignore the fact that they are so dominant at their position, they affect the game more than quarterbacks. How can you affect the game more than the quarterback and you don't even have the damn ball in your hand?
Well, and considering, in you being a defensive lineman, I'm curious of your thoughts on this, considering he's doing it primarily on the inside as a 3-tech. Is it even more impressive? I mean, the sack numbers, the disruptiveness, the tackles for loss. It's unbelievable.
It's easier to build a wall around him. Yes, for him to do what he's done from primarily a 3 technique. The numbers that he puts up are really comparable to whatever defensive end you want to come and put out there that has had a big name or big numbers in recent history, and his numbers are better than theirs. He's a guy that is an interior lineman that had 20 sacks in a season.
Yep.
My best year, I had 14 and a half. Let's just think about that. This guy was directly in the triangle of that box where you've got 2 guards, a center, and the quarterback. And you're telling me more times than not, those 3 guys couldn't block him.
He's busting through it.
He's busting through that. He's affecting the play in that type of situation with 3 guys all with eyes on him for every single play.
And no disrespect to Cooper Kupp, but just for the reason you just said, a lot of people thought
he should have been
Donald
MVP.
Should have been the MVP.
Very easily. Nobody would have blinked an eye if Aaron Donald was given MVP of that Super Bowl. Even Cooper Kupp was like, hey, they just gave it to me. I just accepted it.
So interesting. It'll be, and you hear this, like, who's the MVP? Who's the MVP of the Rams? Their salary cap guru. Because the Rams started this offseason with $13 million, at $13 million over the salary cap.
Yeah.
And in this offseason, when you look at the deals they've been given, whether it's deals to their guys or bringing new talent to the team.
Yeah.
So you look at what they did with Matthew Stafford. They brought in Allen Robinson, Bobby Wagner, of course, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. The total value of those contracts, just those contracts alone, $431.5 million. Easy for me to say. So many numbers. But that's the salary cap guy. To be able to work those deals, bring those guys into the team, and still stay within whatever the guidelines of the contracts are. And they did it. They extended out Matthew Stafford's deal, so the hit this year is lower.
Sure.
They extended out Aaron Donald, so his hit is lower this year. They don't know what Cooper Kupp's is, but it's probably a similar thing. So to have an accountant or a lawyer or some smart guy on your staff that can help you take care of your guys is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what they're saying to all the critics? They're saying, man, they can't maintain this. You know what? I'm sorry, I can't hear you because my Super Bowl ring is in my ear.
Yeah.
So when you start talking about making these moves, they make the moves fully expecting to get a Super Bowl ring out of the deal. And guess what? They got the Super Bowl ring out of the deal.
In their own building.
If you're Les Snead and you're the Cronkies, you feel great about every move that they've made because it all was worth it. When you get to hoist the Lombardi and you get to do it in your own building, what is better than that, Mike? I think about if you're Cooper Kupp, it's almost impossible to have had a better year. You had the most catches, you had the most yards, you had the most touchdowns. You got to play the Super Bowl on your own turf. You were Super Bowl MVP on your own turf. You won every single award that you could have possibly won, and you got to play in the confines of your own crib to win the ultimate prize.
And oh, by the way, you just got paid.
And you get paid. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he have a little one on the way or had a little one just recently? I mean, I think it was something to that effect. So it is good to be Cooper Kupp right about now. I don't know if you could see anybody with a better 2-year stretch than Mr. Kupp.
So you will be able to help us understand this better than either Sean or I would, having never gone through this. Stan Kroenke, the owner, he rewards these players, but it gives them the flexibility by paying signing bonuses up front. So player gets cash in hand
right now,
and then the money is prorated out throughout the life of a contract.
Correct.
So there's your flexibility, and that's really watering it
upfront
down.
money. Yep.
But as a player, because we talk about guaranteed money,
I want that
once
right
they
now.
give you money, they don't take it away.
No.
Like you can argue, you sign a $100 million contract, you don't play it out, maybe you only get 65, whatever.
Yeah.
You get a signing bonus
That's
up front.
yours.
That's yours. It goes in the bank. You don't ever have to worry about that.
Yep, cut that check. That's what I'm all about. And he understands that those guys are happy now, and they're going to do everything that they can to get back to that Super Bowl. It's one thing, Mike, to run a business and be efficient, but then when you start understanding the inner workings of players and their psyche and what makes them tick, they want to be respected. They want to be taken care of. Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp, if you see them as a number 52 guy on that roster, you're seeing the best guys get taken care of, they're going to look at that and be like, man, if I work my tail off and I work hard enough and make enough plays, they're going to take care of me as well. That may not be true, but that will be the overall assumption for this team. And I think everybody is going to up their level of play in the anticipation of maybe getting a little bit of bigger slice of the pie.
Now, it's going to be interesting because, you've got these deals, and I think, we generally agree that all these players are worth it, but eventually you make mistakes.
You're going to have to pay. You're going to have to
you make mistakes.
Sure.
They paid Todd Gurley.
But Todd Gurley got hurt, though.
I understand that.
Right.
And that's part
at the time he was worth the money.
And that's part of life in the NFL. Jared Goff got paid too, right?
But they were able to fleece the.
Well, they did. But again, you look at this and say you hope you're hitting on more than you're missing on.
Right. Right.
And then the other question that I have, because I got to believe other NFL owners are sitting back going, what the, do they change because when we've had lockouts in sports,
sure,
it's never been, it's been portrayed as players against owners. But oftentimes it's owners against owners trying to get on the same page.
That's right.
And other owners are sitting around watching this happen, and it's an arms race, and They might not have the bank that Stan Kroenke has. Detroit Lions certainly don't spend the money the way the Rams do. They've
Cincinnati,
never won a
who was just in the Super Bowl, don't spend the money.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Our team here in Arizona.
It'll be interesting to see if at some point the owners police themselves at the expense of the players.
Yeah, Stan Kroenke's going to look at them like, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. My Super Bowl ring is in my ear. Sorry. You guys talk about all you want, salary cap managing and holding the line and all that kind of stuff. I got hardware, baby. And I'm in La. I just built this big-ass stadium, and I'm getting my money back in droves. I got to host it, and I got all that at the parking, all the venues, everything came to me.
And, oh, by the way, you all owe me. I forget, each owner got a bill for the St. Louis thing just recently. And Stan Kroenke's doing all that while they got a bill to pay him. All right, real quickly, not to change the subject, but we will. When you were playing, the masseuse.
Yes.
You talk about taking care of yourself and the importance of, having proper people look after you from a health standpoint.
Yep.
Dr. Jimmy.
Dr. Jimmy, my
our
man.
guy, Dr.
Regulator.
he took care of both my daughters.
That's right.
Right?
Mike, when you find people that you like, you don't ever move. You don't ever go away from them. Mike, I've been retired for 12 years. You know the last time I got a massage? 12 years ago. You know why? Because my masseuse moved away. That's what it is to have somebody in your corner that you trust. You don't go away from them. So when I hear that number 66, it's hard to get that number out of my head. It's hard to defend that, Mike, because I know for myself, it took me a while to get there. It took me the first half of my career to really realize how important it was to take care of my body. I was young and dumb, Mike. I thought I could just roll out of bed and go to practice. And the first half of my career, I pretty much did. But then I started to understand when my body started breaking down, like, oh, I got to kind of keep this thing going in the right direction. Like I can't just.
That's your livelihood.
It's my livelihood. My body is my business. So once I figured that out and I got some people that I trust, I mean, listen, shout out to Kelly, shout out to my man Jimmy. But those guys, those are my people for life. Those are my brother and sisters for life. I don't go anywhere else because that's where it is. For me, I'm not looking at multiple people to try to take care of me. No, I want the same treatment every single time. I want to know exactly what it is that I'm getting because as a professional athlete, Mike, I am maniacal about every little aspect of my body. You have to be. How could you not be very particular about what you put in your system, who puts their hands on you and keep your muscles nice and pliable and ready to go out there and perform and do what they need to do? And then you start talking about getting IVs and all that kind of stuff. You don't want anybody just putting fluid in your system. You don't know what those people could be doing. So to have 66 different people to try to make your body feel better, no, man.
You ain't buying it.
No, man. I mean, I love me some Deshaun Watson. I do. I will be the first to say I've loved him since Clemson. But I can't defend this. I can't. 66? Damn, bro. Damn.
Well, and I mentioned a moment ago the NFL suit with St. Louis. And what got to settle that is when the other owners got dragged into it and they were going to go through disclosure. I've mentioned this before. The owners don't want to open up and share anything with somebody else's lawyer. And the lawyer representing the original plaintiffs against Deshaun Watson has said that they are going to enjoin, meaning they're going to attach the Houston Texans to this lawsuit. And Sean was talking about it before we started recording. Apparently, the non-disclosure statement was traced directly back to the Houston Texans director of security.
Ouch.
So that you're an employee of the team, you're part of this. And so this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out because
again, if you really think you've unpack all this, right? What conversation between quarterback and security happens for the security to say you need to involve an NDA?
Dude, I need your help.
What conversation took place? What happened? I mean, because I'm assuming you don't go talk to the security or anybody else and about massages or things of that nature.
But actually, you do. You do back channel that because you don't want to have the people in the front office all in your business.
Okay.
Right? So if Deshaun has been going about this in this way, Yeah, he doesn't want the McNair family to know that he deals with 30, 40, 50, 66 different women to rub on him to make him feel better. That's not a good look when you start talking about the face of the franchise. You can't be associated with that many different people, man. That's just not a good look. So, yeah, you actually do back channel people and you talk to the security guy, hey, man, I need to holler at you. Let's keep this off the phone lines. We don't even want to trust that. I need to holler, hey, what's the best way to go about this? Because I might be in a little bit of trouble. I might be in a pickle. How can I get myself out of this? I can absolutely see that happening.
Yeah.
I can see that conversation happening a million times.
Wow.
That's just like how does it get to? You need to have them sign an NDA. I'll get one for you. I mean,
When you start talking about 66,
it's wild.
if you've got two,
Yeah.
if you've got a masseuse and a chiropractor, what are you
Right.
talking about? You can recommend them to anybody. You can say, hey, after practice, hey man, go check out my guy. He's pretty good.
Right.
And then that guy becomes the face or becomes the team guy. And now everybody's getting the same work by the same people.
Kind of like Brady and his guy that he brought in.
TB12.
Everybody started working through that. What's his name? Yeah.
Everybody's going through him. I mean,
Yeah.
and when the lead guy validates him, everybody's going to fall in line.
Yeah.
Because we see this guy's played 22 years. Hey, how you do it? Get with him.
Yeah.
That's easy. But you can't do that for 66 different people.
Well,
Right.
you said that, and that's exactly what happened here with the Cardinals. Like, Jimmy,
Every Saturday.
Everybody, though.
Every Tuesday and Saturday, Mike, I was getting a massage. I was getting stretched. I was getting IVs by the same people every week. They were actually flown out to Tampa for the Super Bowl. They actually came to Tampa. They were so trusted and so respected in the organization, and there were so many guys that were using their services that the Cardinals were like, we might as well bring them because they're going to do everything they can to get these people here anyway. We might as well just make it above the board and make it official. So they were actually there. They were there, and they were at the game. They got tickets to the game and everything. It was crazy. But not 66 different people.
Why? Yeah. No, and that's where it gets.
What are you talking about?
And that's where it's hard if and I even after this report, it's like, okay, let this play out, right? You just have to.
That number's too big,
it's
though.
hard to say
That
it
number's
is.
too big.
And that's where I think you've had a lot of people who are, benefit of the doubt kind of thing, but that number is 66.
No criminal charge. I mean, I was even with him when there's like, okay, there's no criminal charge. The FBI couldn't find nothing. The NFL couldn't find anything for criminal. I'm like, okay, now this is a money thing.
And now his lawyer going on a radio station and talking about how
a happy ending is not illegal.
Is not illegal.
Oh,
like, my goodness.
Yeah.
And now that statement has been put into the civil suits.
Oh, you didn't think it wouldn't be? You didn't think it wouldn't be?
You're not helping.
Right.
Please stop talking. Like somebody should have told a lawyer, stop talking.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that number is just mm-mm.
How you feeling if you're the Cleveland Browns right now?
I think they are. I think they understood this, Mike, which is why Deshaun Watson's only getting $1 million the first year.
Yep.
I think it's a team that understands that there's going to be some blowback no matter what happens, but they weren't dumb enough to not sign him because there were at least 13 other teams that were like, hey, if you don't want him, we'll take him.
Well, where they're getting egg on their face now, and they had to do this. They had to go to the press conference, the introductory press conference, and back their guy and back their decision. They had to do that. But the way they said, yeah, we did our due diligence. We looked into everything.
You know what that was?
And then it turns out they didn't contact a single one of those ladies, and now there's another civil suit that clearly.
You know what that was? That was the Cleveland Browns being one of those 4 teams I told you about. That's never been to a Super Bowl.
Yes.
And you talk about a fan base that is rabid, that is dying to have a winner. Mm-hmm. And when you start talking about what a Deshaun Watson could do to that roster, as opposed to a Baker Mayfield, how he could affect change in that area in Ohio, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they were willing to gamble by only putting $1 million up of the 230 in 2022. Just think about that for a second. Think about all of the different circumstances that are around this case. The fact that everybody pretty much knows there's going to be some sort of suspension for Deshaun Watson. And the fact that they did that and put the number of just $1 million of a fully guaranteed contract in the first year, they already knew. They didn't care.
Yeah.
Because they know in 2023 and 2024 and 2025, we're going to have one of the best quarterbacks in all the NFL, and we're going to have a chance to get to a Super Bowl that we've never been to in the entire existence of this organization. So when you start talking about a rabid fan base that's dying for a winner and an owner that wants to win and is willing to do anything that it takes to win, yeah, you'll look past some flaws. You'll look past some imperfections. And you'll just wait it out, which is why they gave him a year's salary, a whole year of $1 million.
Well, and again, the fact that they've dragged the Texans into this I believe changes the whole dynamic of what this is. Because again, similar to what it was in St. Louis, that was not a criminal case. That was a civil case.
Yeah.
And this is a civil case, but now the Texans are part of it.
Yeah.
And guess what happens when you pull a team in? They get to
it's
ask
about
questions.
It's about to get settled. And
Yeah.
it's about to get settled.
It's going to get settled.
There's not going to be a whole trial. There's not going to be the NFL on display for everybody to take shots at like a piñata.
Ain't going to open up the books, none of that.
Nah, that's never going to happen.
We'll see.
How much money y'all need? How much? Boys, 60. They started doing the math. Though. Cleveland, y'all going to have to put in double, man. 66? Come on now. What we doing? Houston, y'all the reason we in this mess. Y'all going to have to double up, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it's going to have to go.
Remember, Stan, remember that check I wrote for St. Louis?
Yeah.
Right back at you,
Right
baby.
back at you, homie. Yeah, I got you.
Man, if you ever find yourself in a need, just attach the NFL team to it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to do that disclosure. Hey,
How
let
about-
me see your books. We'll decide. I ain't going to show you my books.
How about stretching a hot tub? You know what I mean? How about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's maybe not have to always look for a helping hand.
I like this NFL players get to wear whatever number they want, starting at quarterback for the Browns, number 66.
Wow.
Deshaun Watson.
You know those jerseys are going to be out and about. You know it.
In
Absolutely
Pittsburgh,
know
in
it.
Baltimore,
Yes.
oh my God, in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati,
Yes.
you know they're going to have fun with this one.
Give me a number 66 Watson jersey.
Wow.
Robert Kraft.
The trolling has already begun. I haven't even been on social media today. I already know it's begun.
Robert Kraft, line one.
I
Deshaun,
mean,
here's how you do it.
Can I say get your kicks on
Oh,
route?
no. Oh, no.
Save it.
I had to switch pages, otherwise he would have got one too.
Why'd he get that?
Well, you know,
Oh, no, that was good. Come
it
on.
was better than yours.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
Dude, that was crack, man. This old brain doesn't work that quick.
It was better than yours. It may have been a little bit more off color than yours, but it was better than yours. That's for sure.
We're going to step away for a minute, and we'll be back. Pump the Brakes dad jokes coming up on Training Grose. Welcome back in Training Grose. The music tells you it's time for Pump the Brakes and dad jokes.
It's going to be an abbreviated one,
Oh.
which is fine. I got one. I think the last one's going to be a conversation starter, so
All right, let's do it.
I think we'll still be okay. You know how it works. I'm going to give you a statement, pop culture, world of sports, you name it. You guys tell me if you're pumping the brakes on it or if you're rolling with it. I don't know if I should read the article first or not, but Pump the Brakes or Not, Pro Football Focus has their list of the top coaches in the National Football League. Coming in at number 4, Cliff Kingsbury. Pump the brakes or not?
Pump the brakes. How many playoff games
At
has he won?
number 4. This is why
Out of 32?
This is why analytics in football is stupid. There's too many variables, not enough sample size. You only have 16 games, now 17. It's stupid. Their list is broken down into tiers. Tier 1 being Hall of Fame coaches. That would include Bill Belichick, John Harbaugh at number 2, Andy Reid at 3. And then good coaches. And their blurb about good coaches, many of these coaches are either rising stars or have their comfortable have had comfortable amounts of success in their careers at the helm. And Cliff Kingsbury comes in at number 4 ahead of Pete Carroll, ahead of Matt LaFleur, ahead of Kyle Shanahan, ahead of Mike Vrabel, ahead of Mike McCarthy, who's won a Super Bowl, and Sean McVay,
Who's won a Super Bowl?
who's won a Super Bowl. Pro Football Focus. I'll hit it twice for you.
I mean, wow. Can we win a playoff game first?
I was gonna pump the brakes,
Whoa.
but I'm not gonna.
What?
Stop it.
And the reason why? Zach Ertz told me not to.
Oh, stop it.
Zach Ertz said this week, why didn't you even test free agency? Why didn't you get out there and see he goes, I want to play for Cliff Kingsbury. He goes, this is a top coach in the National Football League. I wanted to be a Cardinal. I wanted to be here with him.
Okay, it's also true that he has a home here in Arizona that he's had for some time, and when you have a Kyler Murray who's going to throw you the ball at least 7-8 times a game, yeah, you definitely want to stay
let
here.
me ask you this. Kyler Murray catches an awful lot of heat for that performance, and rightfully so, in L.A. in the playoffs. But who was the coach that was supposed to have a game plan and have that team ready to go? Because it wasn't just Kyler Murray that was getting pushed all over that football field that day.
I mean, look, when you start talking
Why
about
is nobody this
top
dude coming to 4?
Top 4, you got to at least have a playoff win, and you got to have a ring. There's at least 4 coaches right now in the NFL that each have a ring. And I'm baffled by the list. Like, I want to know who are the top 3 first of all. And
Top three were the ones you would expect. It was Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, John Harbaugh. But in their
How is Mike Tomlin not
in their
in that top
order
4?
is Bill
So I was
Belichick,
just gonna ask,
Harbaugh,
where's
and
Mike
Reid.
Tomlin?
And that is a good question.
Where the hell is Mike Tomlin?
Because I did not see Mike Tomlin.
The man has never had a losing season.
13th.
What? Pump the brakes on that.
That list is bunk.
Pro Football Focus.
Sorry, Zach Ertz.
I'm telling you, Pro Football Focus in their analytics. It doesn't belong in football. Sorry.
You're talking about a man that has never had more losses than wins in a season in 15 years. Is that enough sample size for a man to be considered a really good coach?
Coming in at 13.
And know what the hell he's doing? And you got Cliff Kingsbury
At 4.
ahead of him?
At 4.
I can't believe I'm defending Mike Tomlin, a guy who, at my expense, won his only Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he is 13, you telling me there's 12 coaches that are better than Mike Tomlin in the NFL right now?
If you were starting an NFL franchise from scratch and you could take any head coach that you wanted,
I'm taking Mike Tomlin.
I don't know if Cliff
I'm taking the guy that's never had a losing season. He's never lost more than he's won.
If you go by that, like, hey, who are you? Yeah, I mean, he's, my affinity for him. He's top 5 in my opinion. But if you go by your thing, who are the coaches?
You could have any of them.
You can start an NFL franchise. I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury's in the top 15.
Top 15.
You know what? Honestly, and to your point about Pro Football Focus, I'm more upset about Mike Tomlin at 13 than Cliff Kingsbury at 4.
No, I don't. Well, I'm equally as outraged.
No, I'm more outraged. Like, anyway.
How, Sway? How is Mike Tomlin not in the top quarter? He even has a Super Bowl ring and another Super Bowl appearance. So a lot of those coaches that you talk about, other than Bill Belichick, they only got one to show for.
Yep.
Next question. We talked about it earlier, DeAndre Ayton, his future or lack thereof with the Phoenix Suns. But pump the brakes or not, when you think about the makeup of this roster, and if you remove him from the roster, pump the brakes or not, the Suns need DeAndre Ayton next year on this roster to keep that title window open.
Pump the brakes. The offense doesn't run around him. The defense doesn't run around him. Why are you trying to keep him around? He's a guy that is a luxury.
Athletic, big.
He's a luxury. He's a 7-foot luxury. If you have him, hey, great. But you're not changing life, and you're not running offensive plays for DeAndre Ayton. You're running your offense through Chris Paul or Devin Booker, and not necessarily in that order. And if you're going to press me, I'll even go Mikal Bridges. I'll even go Jay Crowder if they bring him back. I'm pretty sure he's coming back. But there are so many more options than DeAndre Ayton that there's no way that I'm thinking that he's going to be on that roster, or you need him to keep that title, that title contender window open. No way.
I got to go with B-Train. And my point, because I still believe that there's somebody out there. I don't know.
All it takes is one. I mean,
all it takes is one. But I got the draft order. And I'm saying that if Oklahoma City comes to you and says,
all right, but the question is, do you need him on the roster to keep the window open?
No.
Because my point is, if Oklahoma City comes to you and say, we'll give you 2 and whatever else we got to do to make this deal happen, you don't think you can find at number 2?
17 and 10.
You don't think you can find somebody at number 2?
17-10, athletic big.
I like old guy from Gonzaga. I like Chet, the Chet guy.
Yeah.
The Chet Becker or whatever his name is. I like him. He's DeAndre Ayton. You can get him right now. Next one.
This is a
And the Suns will never admit it. They tried to bring
audio for him.
Sabonis in this past year.
They did. Yeah.
So they know it.
Yeah. I just look at this roster and where it's going, and I agree with both of you, by the way. But where this roster is going, I don't know how much trust I have in Chris Paul to last a full NBA season, and then
He's shown you exactly who he is.
A brutal playoff run. You know what I mean?
Year.
I don't know this overall roster. I don't know how much. I don't know how much the window's even open, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Was it fool's gold? Not.
Let me ask you this: Are they where are they comparative to what you're watching? We're recording this on a Thursday, so last night in Game 3, Game 2, Game 1. What you're watching in this finals right now? Where is this Phoenix Suns?
They're nowhere near it. And
I'd agree with that.
Here's the problem. Now you get a healthy Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
Now you get the Utah Jazz back. Now you get the Los Angeles Clippers back. You know that Darvin Ham is going to do something with that roster with the Lakers. They're not going to stand pat, even with Russell Westbrook, because he would be insane not to opt in with $47 million on the table. But you know already they're not better than those 3 teams. They're not better than Dallas. We just saw that. New Orleans is coming for them. Then you still got the Portland team, Portland Trailblazers. They're coming. My Rockets are going to figure it out at some point in my lifetime again.
Hold up.
Wait, but I'm just telling you, with the young talent, it's extremely young, but they're going to figure it out. And they are a few pieces away. If you bring in a few pieces to go with that young talent, now you can start to see something.
Like a DeAndre Ayton?
No, not DeAndre Ayton.
Let's take this year, and let's say the Dallas thing was a fluke and it really was COVID and they should have won that series.
Yeah.
And let's say they took care of Golden State.
That's
to
a
answer
big
your question.
That's a
it
big
is a big if.
Yeah.
The way this Boston Celtics team's played, like if DeAndre Ayton was exposed against the Mavericks, what would he be doing against this Celtics team? The way that team is, it's bigger, it's more physical than anything that they saw during their playoff run.
And Robert Williams is a bigger, better version of DeAndre Ayton. He's a much more reliable version than DeAndre, and he's not even healthy.
And he's not on a max contract.
Yeah.
And he's not on a max contract. Think about that.
But I guarantee you look at the top 5.
In each conference. In each conference.
No, I'm talking this upcoming draft.
Oh, top 7 picks.
Somebody thinks they can bring DeAndre Ayton in, pay him and fix him, and the Suns might have an opportunity in there to get out from under this and retool.
If I'm James Jones,
sign and trade deal.
If I'm James Jones, I can't make that deal fast enough.
All right, so a website named YouGov did a poll that found almost 1 in 5 Americans wouldn't let an unexpected guest stay for dinner. So that means, let's just say, grocer shows up at your house. You're not far out from eating dinner, but he didn't text or call you first. When he's at the door, are you saying, you know what, we're about to eat. I can fix you a plate. Why don't you join us?
B-Train.
That's gross, man. This is my guy, man.
B-Train, you in there?
This is my guy.
I'm looking through the glass.
Look, Grose can not only eat the meal, he can stay the night.
It's okay. So you're pumping the brakes on that.
I'm absolutely pumping the brakes, but those are very few and far between, though.
Okay, so it's not everybody.
No, it's not everybody. There have been I've played 13 years in the NFL, and I've had countless amount of teammates. I can tell you there have been 4 in 13 years that have been in my house. Of all the teammates that I've had, 53 per year, 53 times 13, whatever that is, do that math, 4 have seen the insides of my house. So no, it's very selective.
So it's 72% of people polled said if someone stopped by around dinner time, they would make them a plate or invite them to eat, but 18% said they wouldn't. So 1 in 5 said, no, I'm sorry, you didn't call. We're about to eat. You got to kick rocks.
It depends on who the person and how close I am. If it's a relative, that's different. Relatives have always got to eat, even though I'm going to be pissed and I'm going to be swearing all up under my breath the whole time, but they're going to stay.
Grose? You inviting somebody in?
I'm with B-Train. It's got to be the right person.
It's got to be the right person.
It ain't open door.
No.
It ain't open door policy.
And even if it is somebody, like let's say it's one of you two, why the hell didn't you text? You know what I mean? I agree with you. All right, I'll make you a plate, but I'm cussing you the whole time. Like, send
The
me a
whole time.
text.
Yeah, send me
Call
something.
me.
Give me a
There's
heads
no
up.
excuse in today's day and age.
But
15, 20 years ago, all right, you showed up. I didn't know you were coming there. You didn't have a way of getting a hold of me. There is no excuse
listen,
to not give me a heads up that you're showing up.
What if you're trying to get busy? You know what I'm
That
saying?
too.
What if it's that time? What if the night is right? You know what I mean? You got the candle lights, you got the incense, you got the Barry
right
White
music
going.
on, yep.
You know what I mean? You got the fireplace cooking, but ain't no heat. You know what I mean? Like you trying to make the magic happen. Somebody rolls up, you got you got the robe on. You know what I mean?
Smoking the bubble pipe? Yeah. What's up, baby?
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's up? You know what I mean?
What's up,
So of the 1 in 5 who wouldn't let somebody stay for dinner, around half of them said they would encourage the person to leave when it was time to eat.
Be standing
And
by the door
other
like-
other half would let them stay, but they wouldn't give them any food. That's worse.
Here's the all-time line. What you about to do?
That's exactly right.
When you hit somebody with that,
Yeah.
they know it's time for them
As
to go.
in, what else?
What you about to do outside the house? Yeah, what you about to do, man?
What's that song? Closing Time?
Closing time.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, look.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Listen, if I show up to the door and I got the Hugh Hef robe on, if I got the velvet robe on,
you should know to turn around and go. Yeah. Yeah. There's some people who are clueless though.
If you're wearing your number 66 jersey, you got to go.
Oh, see now, Grose.
or I got the 66 on and I got 7 taped on top of it. All right, that's tacky.
That was a little
That's
bit
tacky.
much.
That's tacky, but you know what I'm saying. Nah, you ain't disturbing this groove. You know what I'm saying?
Hold up.
Don't disturb this groove.
All right, so I think we all agree. We'll make you a plate if you're the right person.
By the way, you played with 689 dudes on the 53-man roster.
689 dudes. 4 of them have
that
seen the
works
inside
out to
of my
less than
house.
0.5% of your former teammates.
That have seen the inside of my house.
0.5%.
Under those very scenarios, but you've seen the inside of my house.
Hell yeah.
You should have seen the inside of my house.
We
You
broke
couldn't
bread a
come
couple
when you were
times.
invited.
I know.
So
I count that as one of my on my list of things that I've done.
and you brought guests. You had the lovely Megster with you.
That's right. Meg came over. We watched the game with you.
She played volleyball with my daughter at the time. It was great.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It was,
stuff.
I won't forget that. I mean, I'll never forget how Megster made her feel because my daughter was so happy, man. I will always, big shout out to Megster. Megster, I love you for that one. I will never forget that.
All right. All right.
Pump the brakes.
Here we go.
You ready to go? Your glasses aren't on, man. For those that watch the program every week, we know it's time for dad jokes when B-Train breaks out
I've been
the
bumping my
specs.
gums, man. You know what I'm
Puts
saying? I've been bumping my gums
told you that
talking about this and that.
The last one was going to be a conversation starter, so.
Yeah.
All right, here we
Yeah.
go. This is how it works. For those of you who listen to the program weekly, you know that B-Train's about to give us his dad joke of the week. No matter what, he's going to get one of these. His dad joke is funny. He gets one of those. If it's above and beyond, we're all going to tell our friends. You hit them with the standing ovation, but there is that chance, just like Grose in the first segment, where it just doesn't land.
That was uncalled
That is
for.
the official grading system of the
Wait a minute,
program.
hold
I did
on
mine
one
on the fly.
You did. But it was... If you roll your eyes and it doesn't make you chuckle, you know what I mean?
You just it took you like a minute and a half to even get it. That's your problem. You're like, damn.
Yeah,
It's like you had to throw it back at me.
yeah. They call this filling in the industry. That's what we're
That's
doing
what
right
we're
now.
doing right now.
We're filling.
Did you have any reservations? Yes, party of 4 at 7:15.
See, that was good now. Yeah, that was good this time around. First time around, though, when we weren't filling.
When you weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
I got you. I'm ready.
All right. Where are we going?
I actually ate a clock yesterday. It was very time consuming.
It's borderline, but I'll give it to him. Because it's not bad. Gross would have hit you
You will
with it.
use that. You will use that tomorrow, wherever
Gross.
you are.
I don't know if I'll use it tomorrow.
Yeah, you'll use it tomorrow.
You would have hit him with it.
That was not your best effort, my friend.
Oh, don't you dare!
That's
Stop
from him.
it!
That's from him.
Stop it!
Hey.
That was not your best effort.
What's they say between friends? Honesty is the best policy.
It is the best policy.
That was not your best effort.
It wasn't.
was not.
But it wasn't. It wasn't.
wasn't
It
terrible.
wasn't bad.
It wasn't sad trombone worthy.
No,
I
it wasn't.
I
No.
didn't think.
No.
But Apparently you think different, and that's fine.
That's fine. That's what we get.
By the way, Top Gun Maverick, 2 thumbs up.
You saw it?
Oh, yeah. My younger brother and I went, 2 thumbs up. It is, and when you go into it knowing that there is no CGI whatsoever in this movie and everything you're seeing was done by an actual jet, it is mind-boggling.
And did you get emotional with the Val Kilmer scene?
No, but it's a good scene. They do a great job of making it emotional and funny at the same time.
2
thumbs up.
I just saw the original Top Gun for the first time Memorial Day weekend.
Now do you want to see the second one?
It doesn't, okay, you can't.
I can't do what?
That's a movie you needed to see in the 80s and be in that time frame.
I mean, but I got it.
Did you get it?
I'm an 80s baby. I got it.
But did it, okay.
Yeah.
It was okay, right? It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
This one blows that one
Still
out.
haven't seen Dirty Dancing.
Don't bother. It was actually, it's funny you said it because you said that last week.
Still haven't
And
seen
it
it.
happened to be on TV this
It's
week.
overrated.
It's way overrated.
I'm Sean Crespin. Any movie I don't like is overrated.
No, that's not the case. Dirty Dancing, in my opinion, is a
It's
little
overrated.
But I'm telling you, Maverick, 2 thumbs up.
It's on the list.
Everybody
thumbs
that I've
up.
heard, one of my best guys from home, shout out to Dirty. Love you, bro. He said he's seen it 3 times already.
See, I would definitely, I'll put it this way, I would go watch it again in the
Wow.
theater.
Yep.
Wow. He's seen it 3 times in the theater.
Yeah, it's just the things they do. I mean, it's edge of your seat. You're gripping your chair. It's funny. It's
Like that, huh?
I think I'm going to do it.
It's all that in the bag of chips.
2 thumbs up, man.
Haven't done it yet, Manuch, but we'll do it.
Maybe we
All
will
right,
do it.
that's it for episode number 74, V-Train. Mike Gross, Sean Crespin. We'll see you next time on Train and Gross.
We'll holler.